Thank you, Mr. Wilder.
There is a very big pile of sand next door.
You're going to yield to
Peter is
Mrs. Wilder?
sitting right there, the building of that house. Why doesn't he get up and tell us?
Aviva Wilder,
Aviva
same
Wilder,
address.
20 Briar Road. And there is a huge sand mountain. I have bugs in the house. You get bugs. I never saw before. How long is that big mountain going to stay there? How long?
That's the
He
fill
bought
that,
the next property and he's putting all the trash in the next property, which creates chaos. And he's sitting there, I know him, and he should get up and explain to people what he's doing.
thank you, Mrs. Wilder. Name and address for the record.
He sneaks on us. He came over to my house to check there before he bought.
Charlotte Soldier, 21 Briar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
21 Briar Court.
21 Briar Court, yes. I also live next door to the Wilders, and I have walked into their backyard at their invitation at least 6 times to look down upon this huge cavity that has been taken out of the earth. I also am astounded at the depth of this hole. My understanding, the last time I attended either the village board or the zoning board, was that there was this hole in the ground in order to accommodate a 9-foot basement. And I understand that there was some additional excavation needed beyond the 9 feet in order to put footings for the new construction. My question is, if you want a 9-foot basement, and maybe you want to have some stuff in between floor 1 and the basement and the first floor, how many feet down is the permit? I don't know how to express it, because what I'm seeing visually is that we've got, like Mr. Wilder said, a depth of 2 stories in a house that is already finished and partially destroyed. The hole is the size of 2 stories.
I understand.
And I understand that you need the footings and everything else. But there's a hell of a lot of space above that that looks like the most phenomenal 9 feet that I ever saw.
As a result of last month's meeting when Mr. and Mrs. Wilder were here, and you were here, and after our Sunday with the mayor, Mr. Wilder attended on the 5th, Mr. Cohen, Trustee Cohen and I had an opportunity to visit the Wilder property. So we stood on the deck, we saw the property. The very next day, I spoke with the building inspector. The building inspector assures me that at this juncture, what's going on that property, based upon the plans that are submitted before the village and the professionals that are auditing that construction, as of now, they comply with the village regulations. Now, as any process, it is a process. So, as the construction continues, we will continue to audit it. What makes that property unique is that because Mr. Wilder, and you being a neighbor, the topography is unique to that area to begin with. It slopes. In addition, this particular property, Mr. and Mrs. Wilder's particular property, was the last piece of property in that development, which kind of made it the runt of the litter as far as the size is concerned. It's a unique size piece of property. So, the property is so far back that it appears that the property behind him is very close to him because of the way the footprint of that building was. I am not an engineer, I am not a planner, but as I learned, this is what I am seeing. It makes the appearance appear a lot larger than it actually is. But the long and the short of it is, according to the building department, as of now, The way that construction is going on, it's complying with the permit that was filed with the village.
Will it only be 9 foot deep?
It would be very interesting to see the outcome of this construction.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next. Whoever's next, just come on up. Ms. Mathis, name and address for the record.
Again,
No problem.
I just hear all these
No, that's
talking
fine.
about certain things now. This is going back a ways, but I feel like I gotta
You have
let
to give
these
your
people know
name
what's
and
going on.
address.
Name and address.
He said, Mrs. Mathis.
Wait, I'm just
6
trying to...
Janet Court, Chestnut Ridge.
Say that again.
Okay. Well, what I want you to be aware of, you're talking about the building inspector is gonna be really proactive and look at all this construction. But you have to know that this construction that's going on, they cut corners. There's a lot of corners that have been cut, especially my house, my property. And the building inspector about 20 years ago, Mr. Grasso, maybe some of you know him.
Just 1 second, Ms. Mathis. Didn't we have to flip the tape the last time you were here?
No, I wasn't here the last time.
No, meaning the first time you spoke.
No, I just want you
No,
to
just 1
be
second.
aware
We
that.
have to-
No, I was at the planning board. Oh, you did that, that was 2 seconds.
This is the one I put in the building. And no one, yeah, what's the other one?
This one says,
Yeah. Yes, that was.
That one needs a new one.
That takes me to the tape.
No, not this one, she put a new one in this.
Oh, okay.
Sending out a table.
I don't want to be erased.
Sorry, we ran out. I apologize for the interruption.
I just. I just feel that. And I want it around to get it there.
Yeah, but it's usually around the dinner table.
Any case. Anyway, what I just want you to do is that I was in my 20s. I love Chestnut Ridge, okay? And we didn't know very much. And there is a huge wall, that retaining wall that you saw on that street. And the builder put big boulders and built up this wall. We were concerned, my husband and I, but you know, we're naive, and we brought it to the attention of our lawyer and everything. Everything will be fine. We talked to the builder. Don't worry, it'll be fine. And then we spoke to Mr. Grasso, and he said, you know, everything's fine, just keep a well-rooted grass system and seeds and everything, it'll grow. Well, my property sunk, and if you come back there, you'll see sinkholes. We couldn't do it. They want over $200,000 to fix that wall. No crushed stone, no filter fabric. Any building inspector knows, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what needs to be done to fill a wall that's all filled property. How do you hold that land? It moves, especially in wetland. That's why I'm concerned about that assisted living. Because if they connect to that sewer, we've already had problems back there. You know, so the land sunk. You come back to, please come to my house, I want you to see it. And then Mr. Grasso came knocking on my door. I didn't want to say he was sorry. How could he issue a seal with that house, knowing that it was never going to hold?
And again, not knowing the full circumstances, I appreciate what you're bringing to our attention. All I can tell you, Ms. Mathis, is that the fact that we have our own inspector here, who he's also a resident of the village, he has skin in the game, you can say, just like we all do here.
But I think Mr. Grasso was too, but I'm not trying to, I don't want to go back and talk about this
Your
history,
point
but I
is
just
well
want you to
taken.
be aware that corners are being cut, no matter what year you're in. And it's going very quickly and brushed under the rug, and then we suffer.
Try not to brush anything.
That's that. And then the second thing, you might want to turn the tape. A lot of people were talking about school buses. Now, I would have never brought this up, but, because I just brush it off. I don't care so much, but school buses, do they come down a cul-de-sac? Are they allowed to come on?
They're allowed to come down the cul-de-sac if they can turn around in the cul-de-sac.
Okay,
If
well-
it's this cul-de-sac where a full-size school bus cannot turn, then it can't come down.
Okay, well, I have 3 kids, and I've been there 20 years. They would never come down to pick up my kids.
I
I had to go all the way up to Ann Boulevard to wait for the bus. Now, all of a sudden, he comes speeding around the cul-de-sac, excuse me, at 6 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Now, right, I thought it was a garbage truck. Nobody really comes down the dead end there. And I hear a noise, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And it's a bus.
But that's what I
Full
did.
size.
I asked myself, because I live on a cul-de-sac, and I have a bus now coming down my street, which never.
Right, so why is
My
that
kids
being
have to
allowed
walk
now?
7/10 of a mile.
Why is it being
Unless they pass.
Well, first of all, if they're able to traverse the road, they're allowed to traverse the road. It's a public road. Right now, they're not supposed to be speeding. If they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, then obviously that's when we try to have the police stationed in different areas. Now, the Ramapo Police Department has approximately 120 officers. They patrol, I believe it's 11 or 12 villages, while the village of Chestnut Ridge usually has designated sector cars, 3, 4 of them, whatever the case may be. They can't just stay in one spot for the whole day. So what they'll try to do is they'll try to alternate their visits, and they will do that. It's just that we can't be all places all the time. But again, we'll put that on the list, on the list also, and we'll get them there, and they go there.
Well, it's just so you know what's going on.
And I
We're
appreciate
paying
that.
taxes. I pay
That's
a
what
lot
I'm
of
for.
taxes, and I just don't know why.
What's the street from here? Da Vinci's? The restaurant?
6 Janet, J-A-N.
It's
Yeah, see, it's constantly,
zoned for
see the property
storefront.
in the back.
And then there's residential, which is being used as residence. That's near her property where it's all existing. Back there. I'll show you this.
Yep, this is actually a bus.
Talking between the two districts.
So that's,
I have the plans, but I didn't get a picture of the plans, but I'll show you.
Assisted living for me.
and then,
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Pena,
I got it.
Jose Pena, 7 Appledale Lane. I also want to ask, as well as our neighbors did, about 15 Appledale Lane, with the lawn mess. Thank you for taking care of Rock. But, like we asked you about the lawn work, that it's high, or it's a big mess. What about the home itself on the corner of Rock and Appledale that's burnt down? Is there any violations about how long that can stand up the way it looks?
Well,
And mess up. I know, I do some work for other villages in their courtrooms, and people get violations if their homes are not even papered. They're not cleaned up. This home is, a disaster over there for two years.
well, is that the one where we're trying to track down ownership? Is that the one? What's the address again, Mr. Pena? 15?
Corner of, no, the lawn mess is 15.
45?
That's the birdhouse that's been there for years.
43 and 45, right next to each other.
It's
Owned
burned
by
out.
LLCs.
We complain about these lawns being a mess, and then I see you sent our building inspector over there on our dime. But what about this house that's?
They're on the radar now. We had a problem with complying with the law with regard to notice and things of that nature. I'm getting signals from the bench that the building inspector has been able to crack the code, and we should,
Just stick
we're
it
on
out,
it.
please. We live there, and this is our home. Number 2, about the speed on Appledale. We are getting a lot of speeders. And I'm sure Ramapo PD can sit at 15 Appledale, and there's nobody there. Okay, so that's-
Behind the grass. Behind the grass. They won't see the cop car.
It's a serious speed issue there. God forbid my dog or something, my grandchild could say that's going to be a problem. Number 3 is on the corner of Appledale and Grocky, from the park after dusk. There's people that go there and hang out in the cars. I see a lot of paraphernalia there, cigars paraphernalia there, and we need that addressed because there's a lot of issues going around town in the papers and everything regarding the drugs.
Well, Ramapo PD has spoken to me with regard to that, and they.
You know what I'm talking about. In the corner, they sit in the cars there. We've all seen that.
Yeah.
The kids sit there and drink beer.
Yeah,
And
they're
more than
beer.
drinking beer.
They're trying, the Ramapo PD, and especially now with the weather being even nicer, they try to make more passes over there. They're aware of it, and again, sometimes it becomes just a manpower thing more than anything else.
I know you guys' hands are full, you try to do the best, but help us out, Mr. Mayor. I give you guys credit, but help us out, please.
We hear you. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Name, address, and questions.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. My name is Denise Guadagnino. I live at 5 Continental Court. The issue regarding buses going down cul-de-sacs, I've worked for the East Ramapo Central School District for 23 years, and the majority of that time was spent working in the elementary division, where I worked with the majority of parents grades K to 6. We had tons of calls about school buses going down cul-de-sacs. The East Ramapo Central School District never allowed their buses to go down cul-de-sacs because if there were cars parked there during the day or in the afternoon, the bus would have to come down and make a K-turn or back up and go around. They never allowed buses to go on a cul-de-sac. I don't know why the law changed. It didn't. They should press the other school buses that are now transporting these children and say it's a safety issue. If they go down and there's cars parked there, how do they get around? They have to back up. That's a safety issue for people living there, children playing there.
And we'll relay that to
We
the-
should look into that.
Thank you.
Is that a East Ramapo School District policy, or is that?
Yes.
But there's other buses, there's student, there's Chestnut Ridge Transportation,
Right.
there's
East
other,
Ramapo
there's
buses were never allowed.
there's other carriers.
Never allowed.
That's their policy. Yep.
Right.
Chestnut Ridge Transportation's a little bit different.
Now you got
I don't think they
It's true
could
in
be.
South Orangetown also. South Orangetown.
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just saying
I'm
that,
just giving you the
But East Ramapo
information.
hired student bus, and we didn't allow them to do that either.
next please.
Right.
Hi
Name and
everyone,
address for the record again.
Claudia Gallo, 2 Sunny Ridge Court. So, the last meeting, we spoke at great length about accommodating a lot of modern families, sorry Walter, coming in and having these 9-foot ceilings, I just had to do it, sorry. So, we talked about the need to have this because the village was being inundated with requests for variances. And this was one of the ways to care for those requests that were coming in. So the very next day, I went to the village and I asked for an appointment, and I did walk in after I got my son off at school, and I asked for an appointment to understand and get an idea of how many variances we received, what is the history of the variances, because we talked about statistics and how important it is to understand the need of statistical information. I was not greeted very nicely. I was actually mocked when I left because I opened the door, I closed the door behind me, and I was picking up some other information about the village, and I heard the secretary actually say, "Who does she think she is coming in here?" So, it took a lot for me to walk away
At the
because
main
I felt
desk?
like a bigger person
Hold it.
for doing so.
Who was the
It's
person
happened
at
to
the
me
main
before,
desk?
too.
At the main desk,
At what time, please?
in the morning.
What day was it?
It was the day after our meeting on
So it
the...
would've been Friday?
It would have been
Friday.
Friday, correct, in the morning. So I took it upon myself to call again, a couple of days later, same person, same type of unfriendly response when I asked for an appointment to come and see, to talk about the variances that we are referring to when we're looking at doing these 9-foot ceilings and amending our laws
Did you
to
ask
accommodate
to
that.
speak to the building department?
I most certainly did, and I
And
have
did they
2 requests, and I
did
have
they
not
transfer
received a
you
call
up there?
back. No, I have not.
All right,
So,
that won't happen.
okay, so when can I come in, and who should I speak to?
You need to make an appointment with the building inspector.
Okay,
Okay.
Isn't it?
which I, okay, yes,
So,
with
or you call Village Hall, and if you need to speak
Florence,
with...
can I talk to you?
Absolutely.
You're always so nice to me, so thank you. You really are, you're so sweet. You're like,
Lisa's
"Oh,
nice too also, so just in case Florence doesn't...
Yes, we've spoken before too. These
Just wanna
2
give
ladies
people-
are lovely.
You gotta go to the bookend, so...
Right. The real bone of the village. Okay, so Florence, I'm gonna call you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, at some point. We'll set up an appointment.
Got
Got it.
Next question,
Okay.
please.
So next question. So we were talking about, the amount of volume of these requests that were coming in that really are driving the need for all of this amending of the law. And I was reading this land use moratorium, and one of some of the reasons why you want to adopt a moratorium is to prevent rush to development, prevent inefficient and ill-convenienced growth, address new kind of use, prevent hasty decisions that would be at a disadvantage to landowners and the public, and prevent immediate construction that might be inconsistent with provisions of a future plan. We have had several examples of folks that submit plans with the notion, I would imagine, of building something, and then later we find out it's something else. 2 Hawk Street comes right to mind, okay? So I encourage the village to really think about putting in a moratorium. It is something that I believe, if we are taking all of these actions to amend all these laws, have we really taken a step back and really assessed where we are going? It feels like we're going in so many different directions that we don't have a solid path.
As a comment, my limited knowledge of moratoriums usually deal with a larger scale development. It is not going to deal with someone who wants to renovate their home. Now, you alluded to a couple of instances that are individual homes which perhaps have taken liberties with certain regulations. A moratorium is not going to address people breaking the law. A
No, I
moratorium is going to stop a larger scale development. In addition, what happens, or a negative on a moratorium, as far as the planners are concerned, is that once you then open back up for business, what you have now is you've got people in the wings, and there's too much that's going to happen all at
There's
once.
pent up,
It's
I
like
understand.
opening up the floodgates. So, this is not this is not something that's so unique. It's something that is utilized in certain particular instances. However, it is an idea that is worth discussing.
Thank you.
And we, as we mentioned, we hired our last meeting, we have a new planner on board, and this will be something that we discuss with the planner. And we appreciate the fact that you did some homework and you brought it to our attention.
Thank you.
Our village has, in our 30 years of existence, has had one moratorium, and that was at the beginning of our village. We had a lot of applications for cell phone towers. That's when they were mushrooming. So we said, wait a second, we passed the moratorium in 6 months, and then we researched it, we extended the moratorium for another 6 months, and within that year period, we came up with a cell phone law that guided where and how cell phone towers could be located, because we had every nonprofit looking to use their property as a revenue producer to put a cell phone tower. So once we were able to establish a law on cell phone towers, the problem was that we removed the moratorium, and we have 3 in the village now, and one of them was the last one that was looking to be built never consummated their plan. So, that was taken under advisement, and we made proper use of the moratorium. What you bring up is a little bit different, but as the mayor said, we will discuss it with our planners and see how it applies, whether this is a tool that we need to implement, or is there a better way to deal with the problem that you alluded to?
As I stated earlier, I see and probably know of about half of some of the ridiculous construction. No permits, they're building something that they say they're gonna, they build something else than what's approved. Our inspectors get to locations very late. other villagers and residents are ignored from Village Hall, and it just feels like we are being choked by LLCs and new residents that are coming into the village. And it's almost like a strategy that we are being choked and that we are being forced to act in a way that perhaps we wouldn't be acting if we had the appropriate time to breathe and actually say, no, we cannot approve this. No, we cannot give you this variance. No, we are stopping for 6 months, and here's why. We'll see you in 6 months. It just feels like we are being changed by outsiders coming in under the cloak and dagger of a business.
Ms. Golub, I think you made your point. I don't think you want to go any further down
Well,
the road.
maybe I do.
All right, stop right now.
Okay.
All right? I think you made your point. I think you made your point.
That is terrible. I know.
Why can't you finish?
Get in there.
Anyone else have any questions?
Maybe we should raise the taxes this time. I have a bill of $600. They told me $50.
I got into East Spring, 49 Springfield Terrace. I was just looking around, and I'm from the East Arapahoe Central School District. I work in one of the buildings that is falling apart, and I'm looking at your ceiling. You need to take care of that. You have a leak there. You don't want it, and I'm not being funny, because you know something? When you have a leak, we have a problem, because you can get mold and people can get sick. Okay? And it gets worse. So I think this should be taken care of because it can get worse. And you think it's funny? Try working where I am. Okay? We've been in this for years. So please, think about it.
Anyone else, any other questions? Name and address for the record, please.
Fran Kaufman, 44 East
Good
Point.
evening, Ms. Kaufman.
Just a clarification on garbage. I've lived here for 26 years. We had garage site pickup. Well, we don't.
No, we do.
Okay. There's a lot of new people in the neighborhood, and that's fine, but because they come in and they see all the garbage cans, not just at the end of your property, but in the street, that is now the norm in our neighborhood, that the garbage cans are in the street. Is there a way that something can be sent out saying, leave your stuff by the garage, they will come pick it up, or leave it at least on your driveway, not in the street? El Dorado is the school up there. There's lots of cars, there's lots of buses coming up. I'm right on the corner. It's gonna be a bad situation, especially since there's so many people walking now in the street.
Well, Ms. Kaufman, we try to remind folks of what the garbage
But I don't think they
regulations
know
are.
what it is.
Well, then the thing is, if for some reason you're not getting your pickup because others are putting their garbage on the curb, then what you need to do is you need to call Village Hall, and then they'll come back
That's not
and
what
write
I'm
the
talking
ticket.
about.
I know
What
what you're saying, but in many other villages and in many other parts of the county, people were used to bringing their garbage down to the street.
Absolutely.
And so they still do it. Yes, we do say, and in our newsletter, we've said many times, you can have garbage by your garage, they will come up to your driveway to pick it up. And we do put it in the newsletter, but you can't force people.
But you can ticket people for having their garbage cans in the street. And that's my problem. It's not that it's the end of the driveway. I don't care if it's on your driveway. I'm saying it's in the street. So it's making, if one side has garbage and the other side has garbage, and it's a curved road, there's an issue. Someone died on my front lawn from going around that corner too fast and hitting a tree. I don't really want that to
No,
happen
you don't
again.
want it to happen. And we encourage people to keep their garbage by their garages so that that we pay. You know, it's a service that's part of our contract to have.
But I don't think people realize.
This has exactly been my point for years. I've been chairman of the zoning board for a couple of decades. And I've always been concerned about people not leaving their garbage by the garage, because I just think the neighborhood looks a lot smoky down here. I've noticed with this new carrier that they do not have a smaller truck.
No, and that's the problem.
have a satellite truck that feeds the bigger truck. So what I've seen with my own garbage is they drag it down to the street and they leave it there. And that isn't what we intended with a garage pickup.
Or they throw it in the flower beds. They put it into garbage in flower beds.
Mr. Mayor,
Flower beds?
Flower beds.
Mr. Mayor,
But in any event, I'm sorry, but it's not a code enforcement issue unless it's in the street. I agree
Well,
with
it's
you.
in the street.
They are in the street. I know where my son lives, they're required to put them in the street. And they're required to have a certain garbage can so that the truck can actually pick up the garbage can.
See them?
But that's not here. And I agree with you. I think it would be a lot cleaner if everyone. In fact, one of my neighbors came up to me and said, how come they pick up your garbage by your garage? I guess it's because you're a trustee. I said, no, we pay for that, and I wish you would leave your garbage up there. And I've spoken to my neighbors about it, but they're so used to bringing it down to the curbs. We now have garbage cans being sold with wheels on them. My garbage cans, I just bought today, my first garbage can with wheels. And finally replaced because the bottom had wore off the plastic of the garbage bin when I get it down to the curb.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask you a question?
I gave up.
Valentine, yes.
Is it possible for the code enforcement to remind our folks to leave their garbage cans?
Folks, please,
Remind them to not to bring it down as a safety issue, is that possibly done?
Yeah, we could remind folks.
Okay.
Will they return them back up to the garage?
They don't take them down. They don't take my garbage can down. They pick up my plastic bags out of the garbage can. And they take it down.
they do that for me 80% of the time. But it depends on what's in my garbage can. Sometimes they actually have to take the garbage can and dump it. Only because an animal may get to it. I always use plastic bags.
All right, this is something we can follow up with the Carter and with the Carter. Next question.
It's not a question, it's a request. Isn't it possible to send out like a monthly notice to people, let them know what's going, monthly? And as part of that monthly notice, remind people of their responsibilities as homeowners regarding the garbage cans and the lawn mowing and stuff like that. There's a pleasant way to remind people that they have responsibilities as residents of Chestnut Ridge.
Monthly's a little too expensive.
Bi-monthly. We have enough.
We try and do it, I think, 4 times a year.
Well, maybe we might need it a little bit more. Maybe
Email.
Well, not
Are you
email, but that's all I'm asking. Isn't there a way to do this? So that people.
It's something to discuss. 911. Anyone else have any questions? One second. Ms. Gallo, apparently I might have insulted you, so if you have anything else you wanted to add, why don't you come up before we
So.
I didn't mean to be terrible, I'm just trying to.
Thank you. So to just wrap up my thoughts here about the village being choked, you can obviously hear all of our concerns, and I would really strongly ask you to take a look at all of the activity, everything in its entirety of what we have seen go through this village over the last few years, and really take a hard look and a very strong stand on what the future of this village is going to look like. I've lived here for 14 years, and I have seen a significant decline. And a decline in the way the village looks, the way it appears from curbside, and my taxes just continue to go up and up and up. So, Mr. Miller, you might disagree with me. I could see it in your facial expression, disagree in the village of the way.
I have been the zoning board and the zoning board chair for 23 years. There's not an onslaught of zoning variances. We're very, well actually I wouldn't say slow, but we're very careful in the zoning variances that we've given out. We've only recently given out one that had an increase in the floor area ratio, which I think is what you're referring to. We have denied variances when people have tried to expand on the sides, even though the neighbors may come in and say they have no problem with it. When they get in too much into the side, the law requires us to grant variances in certain conditions are appropriate. And if a variance is too great, that is a way for the zoning board to deny a variance, and we do. When there's another way of achieving the result, then, other than a variance, we suggest that to people, and we've done that for years and years. I've done it for 23 years. And, Mr. Cohen was chair of the zoning board before I was. He taught me all I knew at the time, but I kind of knew more than that. But you really misread me. It's just, altogether, I mean, I'm concerned about people who are building without permits.
Which is happening.
And I am, but believe it or not, it's always been happening. This is not necessarily a new phenomenon.
But it's
But-
become bubbling
But
up.
and it's something that we have code enforcement looking after. And when we see building, we need you to help us. If you see building without a permit, tell us. And the permits are filed saying what they're gonna build. Now, you don't have to look at every one of them. Tell us about it. If you think they're building something that they shouldn't be building, it's something that we'll look at. That's why we're here. We're we're the same way that you are. But we're an open village to anybody who wants to come in,
And the
as long as
diversity
they
is wonderful.
obey the law.
I agree.
And
I
we
think
do not
we all
want
here
to
agree to that.
ever be looked upon as a village that is somehow closed to any group of people.
No, not at all.
Everyone is welcome. So you agree with that?
I
You have
agree.
no problem
I
with that.
think I can speak not only for myself, but clearly for many others that are here that I consider my neighbors and friends. We love the diversity of the village of Chestnut Ridge. That is what really brought many of us here. I grew up in Tapan, and I should have bought the house because I went to high school with this wonderful person. I should have, my parents wanted me to buy the house up the street, a little too close for comfort, but I moved to Chestnut Ridge instead because I found a beautiful home on a gorgeous piece of property on a private road with a new neighbor who decided to do all kinds of construction illegally or in the evenings, no permits, and
then it's on
grass
us.
is, I understand, and it's been handled, and I've worked with Everett, and I've worked with the
That's
building
what needs to be
inspector,
done.
with Russell, and he's been wonderful. It's been a great experience getting to work with the village. However, we have a series of issues that many of us have shared, not only at the last meeting, but for many occurrences that it's happening a little too much, too close, and homes are being converted, homes are being changed, lawns are I'm repeating myself at this
No,
point.
but understand, we just fined somebody over $12,000 for living in a house without a C of O, because they moved in too quickly. I mean, we are going after people. We've raised
They built the house
the level of fines that
Well,
we're
and
able
I think that's great.
Yeah, so they blew it.
We are not going to take this sitting down. We are very active in pursuing people who are building illegally. But we need your help, and we get your help. The mayor writes down, I've written down a number of properties, he's written down a number of properties.
Everett
Mr. Cohen
doesn't
is going
want,
around.
I think Everett would be very happy if I didn't call him. Because I call all the time.
Which is great, which
I'm
is great.
just like you. I live in this village, I've lived in this village for 48 years. I want my street to remain beautiful. I live on a beautiful
Absolutely.
cul-de-sac. I want it to remain beautiful. When I saw lawns not being taken care of, I called, and I called every day. Did you give it to me? Did you give it to me?
That's right.
I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to be persistent.
But I've seen that for years. When I first moved in, I used to go up one street, and I said, don't they mow their lawns around here? And
I
that was
have to
20 years ago.
I have to say,
People,
living in
there
this
are people
village,
that just don't take care of their properties.
right, it's just that there are more now in the last couple of years. I don't know. I can tell you from my eyes and what I see and what I hear from my friends and neighbors, there seems to be a growing increase year after year of some of these continuous violations.
Well, you tell us about it,
And
we'll go
we
after it.
will, and I appreciate that you're going to be our equal advocate within the village, and I look forward to working with you.
Let me just say also that we love this village much, we all live in the village too. We all, I have children, grandchildren, children in the village, just like everyone else does. And we care about this village just as much as you do. And we certainly understand that we need your eyes and ears as much to help us do this. It's a government of the people, by the people. And we can't do this by ourselves. You know, and I walk my village every day. And when I see neighbors, they stop me and I say, hey, if you have something, let me know. Tell me so I can bring it back. All right, because I can bring it back. I can at least know that I've called and said, can you do this and do that?
Right.
Because they said, I got the information. I couldn't get through. I said, give it to me because I work for you. Everyone in this room here, I work for you. Thank you. All right? Which means I work for you. You're my boss. So you have to tell me what I need to do because I respond to you. So let me know. Tell me.
Most certainly will. Thank you, Mr. Valentine.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine.
Can I ask a quick question? I just want to know, as a follow-up to what
This is name and address for your record.
Mr. Cunningham and Apple Lane. We report something to you. Like I have reported for Badger for months. When do we get a feedback to say, oh, we went and looked at that house, and those 6 cars outside all belong to one You person? reported 6 Badger.
No, there is no 6 Badger, it's 4 Badger.
Okay, write down
If
6
you-
Badger.
No, it's 4 Badger.
Oh,
The building inspector tried to tell me there was no 6, so you look at the tax rolls, it's 4.
I had 6 too.
I had 6 too.
Yeah, we all had 6.
I'm sorry. Anyway,
I just want you to know I do
But I
write
mean,
these things down.
As a practical matter, what would happen is you would then, if you would follow, you would call back, whether it be code enforcement or the building inspector within a couple of days, say, hey, by the way, I spoke to you with regard to 4 Badger, what's going on?
but I did that, and I'm not getting any feedback.
Well,
They still
maybe
haven't-
you don't, maybe there's something going on that you don't see that they've done. So
Well, why
that's why
don't-
you would call, and then you would find out.
So, but I mean, there's a business running out of the house.
Right.
There's 6 cars parking on the lawn. The garbage in the morning, when the garbage pickup is enough for 15 people. But anyway, how do we know that someone has gone out there, physically looked at the house, gone inside? I mean, Gordon Wren, I've talked to him about this with the task force, and said, yes, they are living in the garage, and they're not supposed to be. Or they built a wall over here now, and that's the issue that we have to find out. Because there's houses being worked on, but there's no permits anywhere, but they work. You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Sanda, name and address for the record, please.
Mike Sandak, 18 Blue